Okay, so we're at that point where we've gone through our page layout. We made a comic book out of it for good or bad. You know, it's always going to be a learning process. We're always working in steps trying to make ourselves better. But now we got to come up with our own story. So, a couple of things I've done. On the announcement section of Canvas, I talked to the librarian and she sent me a link that goes to like 100 different stories. A lot of them are fables. So it might be about a fox and a frog, or it might have some other, there's ones about people too. Some of them that I read through are a little too long. And I think you'll get to see what I'm talking about in a few minutes because we're really only doing 2 pages, you know, and how you decide to space out the action within those 2 pages is entirely up to you, but you do have to try to hit a lot of the things that we did earlier in class, like things like foreshortening or subtractive shots where you just do a picture of an object real close up, um, bird's eye, worm's eye, basically the stuff that you even got to see when you were doing your page layouts. I'm going to use it as an example story I wrote because, well, I wrote it and I don't have to come up with a new one at the moment, so that's okay. So I'm going to read you a little bit of this story, and then we're going to look at some comic interpretations of these that were actually done by a student of mine. All right, so story starts out like this. It was the last class of the day as he sat daydreaming in his desk. Announcements were passed out by an annoyed student that the teacher had made volunteer. As the papers hit the desk with a forceful shove, he glanced at them long enough to get the idea of the information, and then he quickly turned them over and used them for sketch paper. On the back of the announcement for the school's Sadie Hawkins dance, he drew a picture of a guitar that existed in no place else but his dreams. The dance was far off, a couple of months at least, but he knew no girl would lower herself to ask him, or maybe they would as part of a cruel joke, only to laugh at him in the halls and point in disgust with their girlfriends. When the bell rang, releasing the students into the world, he assessed his drawings, deemed them good enough to keep, folded it, stuffed it into the lining of his jean jacket. Weaving through the crowd that was either escaping or blocking the hall to chat with their friends, he picked up speed. Always the last one picked for any team, he still prided himself on his ability to dodge not just the projectiles of everyday gym class, but the traffic of people who the words "excuse me" would be meaningless. He was 20 feet from the door when he felt the push and his body slammed into the side of a locker with a boom. Even before he turned, he knew who it was. Jim Salante's claim to fame was the unexpected attack. He never did it without an audience, he never did it to someone bigger, and he never did it without his friends around his backup. All right, so that's the almost 75% of a page. All right, that's a lot of information depending on how you want to show that scene. If we take a look here, let me get my chat over here so in case somebody got questions and they're shy. My former student, Anna, well, it says Saldana, but her real name was Anna Alcala. I don't know if she wanted a fancier name. I'm not sure what that was all about, but like through her senior year, she came up with a new last name for herself. She had a senior project and she had read my book, couldn't come up with an idea for the senior project. And she said, "Can I just do illustrations of your book?" And I went, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Could I turn it into a manga?" And I went, "Yeah, you could totally do that. That would be cool." So eventually she ended up doing 20 full pages. I think when she hit page 10, I started paying her for the pages after that because I'm like, well, you already did your senior project with these 10 pages. But so anyway, you take a look here. This is definitely not my style. So it was really cool for me to look at this and kind of see her take on what went through her mind when she read my book. Because if I say fuzzy green monster right now, everybody in the class has a different idea in their head what a fuzzy green monster would look like. You know, to some people, it's an alligator with a hair condition. To other people, it's a gorilla who's got scales, or just slime. It's a slime monster. So, really, words are different and very personal to each person who reads them. So, as we take a look here, he's sitting at our establishing shot that shows us where the kid is. He's in a room. It looks like he's with other people. Um, I don't know if that really clearly communicates the idea, and I never even thought about this before because I wrote it. So I always assume when I see that he's in a classroom, but I'm not sure anybody else would know that straight off the bat. He's bored. He's watching the clock. He looks over at another student over here who's sleeping. Somebody puts a flyer on his desk. He picks it up. It actually has the title in there, flips it over, and he starts to draw. So from this, we have establishing shot, thought bubble, long shot, almost a subtractive or a foreshortening. This one's definitely foreshortening because the hands look like they're coming at the viewer. Another regular medium shot, subtractive, where it's just hands erasing, still drawing, a bird's eye view of him scribbling, and then the reveal. Now, that's 2 pages. And she only got through the fact that he was drawing a guitar on a piece of paper. But her pacing is interesting because he's bored. I mean, she does 4 panels of him being bored, which actually to the viewer communicates the boredom that he is feeling, because it isn't just like him going, I'm bored, and then the next panel. They kind of play with it a little bit. She's got him examining the paper. Then she's got him drawing. If you look at this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels of drawing, and it's all on one sheet of paper. So she took that one small thing about him drawing a guitar, she expanded it to 7 panels. All right. Then the next one, we have a subtractive of the clock ticking. We have a subtractive of the bell ringing. We have a worm's eye view of him looking up at the clock, looking at the paper, he's starting to fold it there, sticks it in his pocket, heads out to the hallway, gets slammed into a locker. All right. So she really took that 75% of a page and turned it into 4 total pages for a comic book. So if 75% of a page, or a written page, could be turned into 4 pages of a comic book, probably about a third of a page could be 2. Maybe, a paragraph could be 2 full pages. So you don't have to write much. In fact, you really don't have to write at all. You could do it as a stick figure outline for your idea, just break it up like a comic panel. If you wanted to, and you know that your panels are all going to be the exact same size, you could take a piece of paper like so, fold it into thirds. I was about to tell you to do an envelope third, but I'm not sure any of you guys have ever, or an envelope photo. I'm not sure you guys have ever folded an envelope. Let me stop my share. I'll show that again. All right. So take a piece of paper, 1/3, 1/3, fold it in half. You got spots for 6 panels right there. Now, this would in no means be your finished drawing. You would not do that. But if you're going to do it out in stick figure form and do your word bubbles and write it like that instead of writing it as a story form, then yeah, you could totally do it like that. The idea is to capture the story idea. All right. Let me buzz over to my example. As a totally different example. All right, so I've got mine out in a layout form at the moment. Part of the reason I have it in a layout form is because I left my good ones at school and I have not been back to school since October. So I actually have 2 pages of this I've done as a poster size page. But I started playing around with it to see if there would be a different way I could tell the same story. So what I got here is I have a 2-point perspective, which we covered a bit when in class, of a school building. I'd probably write something up here, Larkin. No, just kidding. And then I have this focus on the window. We zoom into the window, you see the teacher. You see then the student is bird's eye drawing. She's already passed out the paper. All right, so she's giving it to him. He's over here. I'll add a little more hair. All right, and she's gone on. Everybody else has their paper. This kid's reading his paper. This kid's going to be throwing his paper in the garbage. All right. Then the close up of the clock, we go from, this is like sequential paneling, right? We're at 2:55, clock hits 3 o'clock, ring. All right. So I end up putting more panels in my page than she had. But I'm through my page quicker. Like it took her 2 pages to show the drawing. I decided it wasn't as important. So what you need to do is come up with an idea that you can continue to draw on. And if you want to do it as stick figures, just so you can go, here's my story. If you want to handwrite it, what I usually do when I write something and I got to put it into a comic book format, I go through it and I say, what could be a panel? So I read it and I'll say, it was the last day of class as he sat daydreaming at his desk. That seems like one picture to me. Announcements were passed out by an annoyed student that the teacher had made volunteer. Okay, maybe that's a panel. What comes after that? As the papers hit the desk with a forceful shove, he glances at them long enough to get the idea of the information and then quickly turns them over and uses them for sketch paper. All right. That could almost be one panel. I showed it here. She had already been past him. When Anna showed it in her drawings, it was a little more complicated. So if you write it longhand like that, you basically got to go through it and go panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, whatever you think flows. All right. Cool. Is there any questions on that so far? All right. So today you're going to find your story. You're either going to write it. You can look into Google announcements, read through a bunch of theirs, see if that's something you think you'd want to illustrate for that if you can't come up with your own story. Either written with words, or you could take and do it as a rough stick figure layout on a folded sheet of paper. Remember, you'll probably need 2 sheets of paper if your story is going to be 2 pages. Excellent. Any questions? Cool. All right, guys, you got to the rest of the class period to work. I'll check in on the chat every once in a while. I will probably be on my USB camera cleaning up that layout because we're going to do story. Then when I see your story, I'm going to say, here's what you need to change, make it look better. Then we'll go to a layout page. Then we will do, we will start the clean pencil line page. So we're going to be at this for a while. So make sure you're okay with your story. Make sure it doesn't suck. You know, it doesn't have to be great. It can end in a cliffhanger. All right. If it's some guy reaching into his microwave and you don't know if the food's going to be done and that's the dramatic moment, all right. If the dramatic moment is he finds out Darth is his worst enemy is his father, that's fine too. All right, cool.